Hello and welcome to Rauta's Metal Bands Doing Non-Metal Covers episode 4. As with the previous episode, I've gone through some of the more interesting cover songs made by a metal band which were not originally metal. I mean, there's very little sense to a lot of metal bands doing metal covers because the results end up either being too much the same or just non-interesting in other ways. I mean, there are plenty, but we're not touching that with this particular series. So as with the previous episodes, 3 of them, we'll go through 5 different ones, explain a little bit background. There's not too much going into detail, more like giving you something to check out during the summer while you're having your cold drinks with your friends and all that stuff, assuming you have friends in the first place. Let's do this in alphabetical order as always, because there's no other really reason to go in some particular order. Now, Battle Beast is one of those Finnish new bands, which is not that new, but still, and have paved their way with their rather cheesy and kind of 80s inspired metal music, very mainstream of course, and with some very talented musicians. Now, they made a very interesting cover song of Push It to the Limit by Paul Engman. This is of course known for the movie Scarface, which is one of the best crime movies ever if you ask me. I'm talking about the remake or the new version that is with the kind of a 1980s feeling and all. Think of the magical moments when you're driving in the streets of Miami and the drug wars and everything crazy. So I'm not talking about the 1930s, whatever movie, but, the one that we all hopefully know. If you haven't seen Scarface, what I'm talking about, what can I say? Get it done. It's a marvelous piece. Now, this movie, around maybe the midpoint of the one, actually has this great song, Push It to the Limit. It's very cheesy 1980s kind of a song, but I've always loved the song. There's certain passion, certain energy why it's so good. And it's actually like my number 2 all-time workout music for, the gym and all that stuff. Now, the only one is better, what I'm mentioning is Manowar's number 1. Read the lyrics, hear Manowar, you know what I'm talking about. But this, apart from that Push It to the Limit kind of, just makes you go to the limit. When you're, pushing the barbell or lifting whatever things, it's all about that in my head. Obviously, the song is also in a very different context in this movie when it's all about gambling, during the drugs trafficking and all that stuff in the movie. It's just mind-blowingly good. And the song, like I said, the original song is really good, but Battle Beast made a great cover of that one. They kind of took that pop song into a metal version, but without letting the 1980s feeling go out of the window. And this also shows how skilled the vocalist Nora Louhimo is, because she's able to just, use her voice, stretch it to the max, and the rest of the band are doing great in order to kind of copy the 1980s feeling. So what can I say? It's a really great song and has a great cover. Now, of course, the question is which one you like more. This can go 2 ways. You either go with the one that you heard first, or you go with the one that is more metallic because you're a metal fan watching Rauta and all. Now, I still have to say Push It to the Limit original version by Paul Engman is the one which I like more. But I gotta say, Battle Beast really did great work in order to make your own version sound metallic and yet still true to the original one. So check out both versions if you ask me. The next one in line doesn't have that much of a story, but story nonetheless. This one was, this song 13 that is, was made originally by Glenn Danzig in 1994. Here it is on Metal Archive site, so you don't have to listen to me, you can read it for yourself. For Johnny Cash, one of the most famous country music people of all time, and Johnny Cash version, you could say the original one, is really kind of like busting you by the balls. There's certain warmth and very, very strong charisma what Johnny Cash always had. I mean, if you have heard Johnny Cash covering Nine Inch Nails, heard the best cover song of all times, if you ask me, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not exactly a big fan of Johnny Cash music in general because I'm not really into country rock or so, but the man has the voice, the charisma, and the ability to just, do the emotions perfectly. So when Danzig, who have made great songs in the past, made this song for Johnny Cash, probably Marriage Made in Hell or Heaven, whatever you prefer. But later on, Danzig made it on their own version. So a few years later, for the album 666, Satan's Child, here as the ending track. I think it's rather good of a track, but it's far away from the best material Danzig has written, performed and all. And I gotta say, in this case, the Johnny Cash version is just better. So sometimes the original version is indeed better, or at least according to my own opinion, but can't say the Danzig version, I mean, he after all made the song, is bad one. It just pales in comparison, and that's really all we need to talk about. So quite interesting to make a song for someone else and then later on do it yourself. Can't really say that about many other artists except Danzig being kind of a peculiar one. Then we have probably the weirdest song on this whole series so far, because we're talking about Finnish act Denigrate, which is known for something else than, pop music. Yet their most famous song is actually this cover, Mombasa, made by Denigrate for a movie, Menolippu Mombasaan, which is a Finnish movie. Never actually seen it, but what I've been reading here about it, it's kind of a cheesy, emotional drama movie, whatever. And their song, as cheesy as it is, it's really, really well made. There's a lot of the same thing that with Battle Beast covering Push It to the Limit. Now, this is funny. Indeed, Mombasa is a Taiska. Taiska is nowadays probably retired, but I mean, back in the days he was a music teacher and all. And in 1970s, he made this pop song, or performed it, Mombasa, which is very, very typical 1970s Finnish music. I can't really bitch about it. It's not super great, but made super successful. And Denigrate made it a metal cover. So they did this really, really light-hearted kind of a easy to listen radio pop song and made it in more metallic ways. And my friend Mikko, who is the vocalist here, Mikko Hell, as he likes to be called, has a really strong, good voice, but also full of warmth. And the way he kind of performs this is made like he's making the song his own, or Denigrate's own. I remember at some point Mikko was not too proud of this version, but I guess they were paid nicely by the record company and all, but his voice just fits the song perfectly. It's not my favorite kind of music in general because I think the song is kind of too cheesy, partially because of the movie, I guess, but also, I mean, as a music, as a composer, or composition, the song is made into their own. Is like you have those heavy guitars, but not overdoing anything. So it's much like Battle Beast in that sense, like doing a pop song into metal in a very, very respectful manners, and that's what counts really. I'm not a fan of either song or either version, that is Taiska version, the original one, or Denigrate version. But if I had to listen to either of these, I would go for the Denigrate version because I love the powerful guitars and the good vocals. So me not being really a pop fan, obviously I would go for the metal version. Not that obvious because I was just mentioning Push It to the Limit for being original version better. Anyway, curious case because indeed this is their most famous song. So sometimes doing a cover actually takes you to the heights. And anybody who have been, listening to bands such as Bad Wolves or whatever, covering the Cranberries or the one other act that covered Michael Jackson, I don't even remember the name, know that sometimes covering a famous artist can really take you to the heights, even if it annoys you as an artist for being known for the cover song, not your original material. But that's how it is sometimes. Then we have an interesting take here with Girls' School and Motorhead doing a collaboration cover. And now this is found on many different releases, True, Girl School and Motorhead releases. I just picked this one because it was kind of a fitting. This is rather old, from 1980s, but it has been re-released in so many times. Sometimes it's more credited to Motorhead, sometimes more Girl School, sometimes to both. But the original version, Johnny Kidd and the Pirates cover, is like old school rock and roll song. And of course, when you listen to the original, song, you can feel that, okay, it's decades old. It's a kind of a good groovy song, can't bitch about it, but I'm not really that old school rock and roll fan. So when Girl School and Motorhead made this their own version, kind of adding a lot of heaviness, a lot of more hard rock feeling to it, they really nailed it. The thing here is, you can of course hear the original version in your head probably when you're listening to this, if you listen to them back to back like I did. And that kind of shows the skill and understanding what Girl School and Motorhead people understand what it was all about. So yeah, I think technically speaking you could say it's more like Girl School with Lemmy, but still. Either way, doesn't matter how you say when and all that stuff, goes beyond the point. What matters is that you can take really an old school song and make it into a metal version and do it with class and style, much like with Anthrax did with, Got the Time version. So it's a good example how old school and newer school, if you can call it that, can meet and, just make it work nice ways. Then the most tragic one, I guess, in this episode is the Jeff Buckley cover by Catatonia. Jeff Buckley was known in the 90s as a very promised, very talented, very emotional artist who drowned only after one album out. And of course that makes a tragic story, a sad story. What he made with this music, Nightmares by the Sea, is already kind of a gothic feeling to it, but not being metallic, of course. I mean, he was, after all, man of very different styles. And when Catatonia covered them in 1990s and made this Jeff Buckley cover, it sounds like it's a Catatonia song for real. There's a certain level of that gothicness blending with the Nordic mindset when Catatonia plays it. So yes, it's heavier, it's in a way more tragic, in a way more gothic, darker if you will, than the original ones. I mean, both songs, both versions, the original and the cover songs, are good in their own respective senses. But I must say, I'm not really a fan of this style as such. But why this is it in this episode is that this is actually really good cover. And I can't say the original one is a bad song, by no means. I mean, there's certain kind of a melancholia, darkness, bleakiness, whatever you have, which I think is kind of like nice. But because I'm a metalhead, I mostly like metallic music, even if there are plenty of other exceptions to this rule. And as such, I'm saying Catatonia's version of this one is really good. In a way, it brings this kind of Nordic or Swedish vibe to it, the same way that Therion did with the ABBA cover Summer Night City. So certain heaviness, certain bleakiness, certain Nordicness, if you will. And that's what makes this cover a beautiful one. So I prefer the cover version in this case more than the original version, but of course, mileage may vary and all that stuff. Now, these are all different styles, so I don't expect you to like them all. I mean, you have the cheesy heavy metal in the 80s ways, you have Danzig's own unique style of doing a country song, you have Denigrate doing a pop song, which is very different than the original one, you have Motorhead and Girl School doing the classic rock kind of a thing, and then you have Catatonia doing a little bit of that gothic, dark metal style, if you will. So all different, and yet all are good cover songs. And in many cases, maybe in all of these cases, the respectful songs, the original ones that is, are also good. Just very different than some of the covers here. I hope you bring you a couple of more episodes, because there's still plenty of interesting cover songs made by metal bands of non-metal covers. So let's talk about that in later episodes. With these ideas, I hope I got you to interest in some of the new bands, some of the new artists, and at least some of the new cool cover songs. So let me know what do you think about this or the previous songs I mentioned in the previous episodes. Now off you go, enjoy some good music and enjoy your summer. This is Jerry, this is Rauta, over and out.